You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video coverage of the OPNFV Summit in San Francisco. I'm joined now by Sandra Rivera, who is Vice President of Data Center Group and General Manager of Network Platforms Group at Intel. Sandra, thanks for talking with TelecomTV again.
Thank you.
In the context of open solutions for NFV, what do we mean when we say open?
So that's a great question, the definition of open. Well, Intel is a company that's completely committed to open source, open standards, open ecosystems, because we do believe the broader you have participation in the market, the more people that can come in and innovate, the richer the solutions and frankly the better the business value proposition. And so for us, it really is about having a framework where you have an opportunity to innovate, but where the interfaces between the innovation blocks, if you will, are standardized. And so anyone can come in and innovate, but there is a promise of interoperability, there's a promise of modularity, and in some ways replaceability of any one of those blocks, because that gives you a broad base of vendors and solutions to choose from. So that would be my definition.
So when we talk about open solutions, one of the critical aspects is interoperability.
Indeed, and that's why those interfaces are so crucial, and really a lot of the work that we've done here in OPNFV has been to define the interfaces, not the implementations, because those blocks themselves may differ in terms of how someone brings a solution to market, but if the interfaces are standardized and they're open to anyone to innovate around, then indeed you get that promise of interoperability, because the best building block providers will earn the business with the customer.
For the telco customers, the service providers, network operators, they're coming from this closed historical background. How has it been? Has it been difficult to encourage them to embrace openness?
You know, if you would have asked me that question 5 years ago, everyone thought we were crazy. Because it was such a departure from the way that they'd built solutions, fixed function, purpose-built, physical appliances that did what they did actually quite well, but you could not re-provision or reprogram to do anything else, despite the fact that a lot of that equipment in the network sits idle for much of the time. In some parts of the access network, 70% of the time of idle time. And that's because, of course, we know that the way they build networks is to over-engineer, over-dimension it for peak traffic, even though it's not used in that way. But so much has happened in 5 years in terms of the innovation that's occurred in all things data center and cloud, that the communication service providers have seen, hey, we want to get on that curve. We want to get on that curve of volume server economics. We want to get on the curve of virtualization technology and a pooling of resources that I can utilize for different applications at different points in time or different customers. And we want to have a cloud business model that allows us then to innovate around technology, but also around different ways that we approach the market. So it's a very different environment. It's a very different conversation today, which is, yes, we will embrace open, because that is the footprint of anything that's server, anything that's virtualization, anything that's cloud. But there's still some challenges there in terms of how open do you go and how far they're willing to go out of the chute. Right?
So when we look at moving NFV from proofs of concept and from trials into commercial deployment, is it a case that we're not going to have 100% open source built solutions? It's going to be more of a hybrid?
Definitely a hybrid. I think in the near years it'll be a hybrid, simply because the availability of solutions and the need to integrate to legacy infrastructure, and there's a lot of investment in legacy infrastructure, is going to be one that you have to pick and choose your areas where the economics and the technology just lend itself to, hey, if I'm going to deploy today, I'm going to deploy using NFV and SDN architectural principles. And you see that in the edges of the network. You see that in the appliances, whether that's virtualized load balancers or gateways or firewalls or VPNs. You see that in some of the core of the network in terms of some of the network nodes around virtual EPC. But there are platforms that don't necessarily lend themselves to virtualization, that are perhaps low volume, but really high performance and much more purpose built. So you wouldn't use that hardware for any other purpose, and you do get a high level utilization of it as is. So when you look at a core router, a 400 terabit router, you're just, or a 400 gig or 1 terabit router, you're not going to virtualize that anytime soon. So you will have a hybrid environment for quite some time.
Final question for you. Why are you so supportive and empowered by OPNFV?
Well, we are a believer again in community and collaboration as a way to innovate faster. And when we see all of our customers, which are of course the equipment providers, the solution providers, and our customers as service providers, trying to solve the same problems over and over and over again, it is inefficient. You know, we're an ingredient technology provider, and we work with and talk with, you know, most of the players in the industry, if not all of the players in the industry, and we see the level of, you know, solving the same problem over and over. So the promise of OPNFV is really, let's come together as a collective industry to solve the problems in community and to really differentiate where our core competencies are. And so, so I get very excited about the efficiency that will bring, and the pace of innovation, again, when you have parallelized efforts versus individual point efforts.
Sandra, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.